This organization was started by a group of young business people at the time, we're not so young anymore, that were looking to give back to the community.
We had 5 or 6 different ideas, and we kept coming back to the military for 2 reasons. One, because not only did none of us have a military background, but we also really didn't have that knowledge of knowing a lot of people that were currently actively in the military.
Somebody gave us some great advice when we went to start the organization. He said, pick something that you're passionate about, but pick something that other people are passionate about as well. And patriotism is very universal. We may not all agree with politics or if we want to be in a war or not. We all agree that we'd prefer not to have those problems. But we do universally want to support our troops, and we universally love our country and want to give back in the best way we can. So helping those that have served and protect all of our freedoms, not only today, but for those going generations before us, going back to World War II and before that, we want to be able to honor them by helping those that have come home.
We went back to our roots and looked at some of the people that helped shape us. I had an uncle who served in World War II, who I was very close to and honestly was extremely helpful in my success in my life. He told me stories about his time in the service and what that meant to him, the work ethic it instilled, but also the appreciation he got doing that for what this country offered him. And he never complained about it and felt like this is what he did. He was very proud of what he did.
The reason we got into this from the beginning 10 years ago was just, our parents growing up in that generation, having seen, some of the way some of these riots and protests, particularly around Vietnam. It's one thing to have a message, a macro message for the government, but just the idea that individuals would be disrespected was something that, in the early days of NEOPAT, we really started to get our minds wrapped around and said, this can't happen.
I had a choice, Army, Navy, or Marine Corps, and I chose Navy, and my nephews always asked me, why did you choose the Navy? And I says, I'll know where my bed was every night. I guess that was what I told him. I picked up my LST in Hawaii. We took a troop ship over to Hawaii out of California and got aboard my LST 275. We thought we'd been attacked, which we had in Pearl Harbor and so forth. And the feeling was, everything changed. I mean, life and rationing and so forth. It's hard to believe, and it's hard to even describe, but you age a little bit faster, I think, maybe. We were on the beach with that. We would take troops off Liberty ships and so forth and take them into the beach and then load cargoes or whatever, supplies. We went into Lady Gulf to take, that's when MacArthur said,
I shall return.
Yeah, I was on that beach there with my next oldest brother. He was on that in the Army, but we didn't know that until we got back to the States and we got talking.
Couple big events or big, initiatives that stick out to me. One is the Our Community Salutes event, which is a organization it actually has several chapters across the United States. Ours has now become the largest. It's the largest and most attended Our Community Salutes event in the country. And we've been fortunate enough to get involved in that. And what it does is it offers the chance for every graduating senior who has chosen to enlist to be recognized for their service and their initiative and effort that they're going to embark on.
We started down this music therapy kind of path with some funding from the Vince Gill Foundation. Concept there was to try to help PTSD, and particularly using music as a way to tell stories from veterans by drawing out in some creative ways, some ways for them to kind of communicate with their family and loved ones about some of what they've experienced.
And I think the biggest thing that's come out of NEOPAT are the relationships of people that didn't know each other 10 years ago because of their common theme of loving their country and loving those that have served. have all come together and banded together in the NEOPAT movement to help those that have served our country and those that protect our freedoms on a day in and day out basis.
If you keep at the core what the mission is, to help any way we can support military men and women across Northeast Ohio, to dream big, to never stop looking at what could be, to put yourself surrounded by people that will always have that vision of thinking, where do we go next to grow the organization to a level that the founders never thought was possible. And I think that's how you avoid being stagnant. That's how you avoid becoming complacent, is you need to continuously surround yourself with smart, energized, passionate people for the cause that have unique and creative ideas that we wouldn't have been exposed to.
What I'm most proud of over the last 10 years with NEOPAT is that we kept our promise. We kept our promise to those military men and women and their families that we would help them in their need. We kept our promise to promote patriotism in Northeast Ohio. Since 9/11, more than 110 men and women in our community who've been serving in our country's armed forces were killed in action, protecting all of our freedoms. We've had a chance to cry with their families. We've had a chance to hug their families. We've had a chance to share stories with their families. And the thing that they told us the most that they wanted us to do in order to honor their son or daughter or brother or sister or mom or dad, but the thing that we could do to best remember them was to help those that have come home. And that's our promise. Our promise is that we're going to help those that come home in honor of those that we've lost. It's the least that we can do to support what they've done for all of us.
She was special. We were married 67 years. When she passed away in 2012, it had been 75 this past year, I think. She was one of a kind. It's the memories I've got, and 4 grandkids is really grand, and 8 great-grandchildren, and memories that nobody can take from me. I had an old fellow tell me, said, you know, we don't have any future. And I says, well, I've got a heck of a past you can't get. And I believe that.